Welcome everybody to VANTEC. It's Wednesday afternoon, so I must be in Vancouver. Why am I saying such a thing? Because forgive me if I'm not as lucid as I usually am because I'm still jet lagged. It's now I think 3 a.m. in Istanbul. This is where I was. Okay, well, I'm glad to be back here in Vancouver. It's sunny here and it's great weather, and we've got a really interesting lineup today. So we've been operating for 23 years. I just did the calculation here, and we've been meeting every single month since 1999. And I'm really happy to say that we're going strong, and we've changed VANTEC quite a bit and evolved to suit everybody. And I thank the whole community for helping us be better, really up our game. And we have VANTEC meetings every single month. And this month is a themed month for Cleantech. And to kick things off for themed events, we always have a little presentation about the topic of the month. And for this, I am going to hand it over to my good friend and colleague, Dave Thomas, who's with SFU VentureLabs, and he and I are also partners at Rocketbuilders. So Dave, take it away.
Thank you very much, Thalzel. I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay with everybody. And I'm going to put up a presentation. Let's go. All right. So the topic this time around is Cleantech, and it's a certain version of Cleantech. Obviously, it's talking about investing in Cleantech and the transition to circularity and carbon neutrality. So a lot of it is about the circular economy and a number of other things. Before I get going, Thalzel mentioned earlier on that VANTEC has been running since 1999. And I see Alan Burgess in the audience, and Alan and I were with the company where he was the CEO, and he presented in 1999 at the VANTEC Angel Network. So it's nice to see him come back 23 years later. Anyways, what I'd like to do is I'm doing the presenting. Jeff Hansen is also on board from Rocketbuilders. And we've got a number of different topics we wanted to talk about. One quick thing we wanted to do is just mention what VentureLabs has running at the moment, a little bit of self-promotion. One event that people might find interesting is an event called How to Work with Multinational Corporations, featuring SAP, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, and CGI. Full details are available on the VentureLabs website. It's April 25th, starting at 4 p.m. Also have a number of other good seminars and workshops put on by Garibaldi Capital, including as SaaS metrics for maximizing valuation and best practices for accounting for a SaaS business. Those are in April and May. So our agenda today is really not to try to be comprehensive and go through a whole bunch of data. The objective is really to take a look at some of the latest and very latest comments and predictions and some of the questions from the technology news sources. I've got something here, which is from about 4 or 5 days ago. Evoke, which is a local venture capital firm or a local angel sort of syndicating firm, has raised $150 million for Cleantech, and they did that relatively recently. And Jonathan Rhone was just telling me about something that was announced earlier on today and yesterday. So there's a lot of interesting news, and a lot of it is very, very recent. Our climate, our schedule agenda will be climate tech, just in general. And then we'll drop into energy storage, who's storing energy or will be storing energy, what's the future for hydrogen, different types of it and why. Then we'll take a look at, if we're taking so much of a change in the value chains, how does this impact a lot of the things which are either still in the ground or water? And finally, we'll look at ESG, because this is something that's an important factor in it, and something that's decreasing, we'll call it the cycle of how long it takes for clean tech investments to mature and to succeed. So let's brief thing comment is, and this is from Entrepreneur.com, March 2022. The industry has matured, and like the bubble that prevailed at the beginning of this century, like 20 years ago, clean tech companies seem poised for scale and long-term growth. In a report from McKinsey, they say that there will be 140 billion plus in annual investments by 2025, and that's annually in electrification, agriculture, power grid, hydrogen, carbon capture. You could add in sequestration, storage, all sorts of portions of a very broad clean tech market are receiving investments. And a lot of them are infrastructure related, but a lot of them are also still relatively early stage opportunities. So when I look at this, and interesting stats from PwC, in the last 8 years, there was 222 billion in climate change investments. And then in the second half of 2020 and the first half of 2021, which is a 12-month period, it was 87.5 billion, or 39 or almost 40% of the investment in 8 years happened in 1 year. So the rate of change and the volume of money going into trying to change or create new types of energy or new types of technology to improve climate change or to counteract climate change is quite large. So what you get is a 210% jump in funding from the prior 12-month period. And interestingly, 65% is from US investors. And this represents 14% of all venture capital investment. So it's not a small part of the venture capital industry, it's a very big part. So I've got a number of tables that I've borrowed from some of the reports that are relatively recent. This one is from January, it's from Holon IQ. And what it really looks at is different locations, whether it's China, United States, Europe, different places. What's the level of funding now and versus before the pandemic? So interestingly enough, we know that the pandemic was tough on clean tech companies, early stage ones, especially for revenue, because you couldn't go out and sell as much and it was difficult to do installations of things. It's very clear in 2020 and 2021 that there is a significant increase in investment into climate tech ventures. So it indicates very clearly that there's an interest and an appetite in this space. So, and everybody goes, well, is that the same all across the board? And if you look at three areas that are quite, heavily invested in over a period of time, and you go with education technology, climate technology, digital health, one would have anticipated during the pandemic that digital health would really take off, but it's also very clear that climate technology has really had a significant increase at the same time. So over a 10-year period, it's increased 50%. So its rate of change is extremely high. And again, this comes from Holon IQ. So it gives us a real idea of how things are changing and how things are maturing in the marketplace. Another thing that we'll look at as final slide from this group is looking at it by region and also by deal size. So if you look at climate, which is the middle bar of the three, the United States is by far the leading area, 54%. You also see that large plays, which is over $100 million or 65% of the investment. They're not all of it. So it tells you that a lot of money is going into infrastructure or will go into infrastructure in the future. So there is a significant change in the way, whether it's energy, whether it's all sorts of different types of technologies are going into changing climate or trying to reduce the impact of climate change as we know it now. So one way to look here is, will there be a lot of energy storage in the next 5 years? So you look at this graph and it's from 2020 through 2026. You see a very significant increase in the amount of energy storage. The thing that's important here is in the past, a lot of energy storage was pumping water uphill into a reservoir when demand was light, and then you could actually use the reservoir to run turbines to increase energy capacity when you had high demand. A lot of it is going into lithium ion or other forms of energy storage. So it isn't necessarily all hydro anymore. It's moving into a whole variety of different types of energy storage capacity. And when we dig into that one a little bit more, we see that you can be putting energy storage in a residential. So if I had solar panels on my house, I could have batteries, or I could have a Tesla Powerwall in my basement. I could be storing energy myself, or it could go into commercial and industrial. But the real group that is significantly investing here is the utilities. In other words, they are trying to create energy storage capacity as a way of improving their ability to react to demand on the grid. And they're doing this through new technologies. And the graph looks almost linear in terms of increase, but when you look at the number of gigawatt hours of energy that will be deployed in the, call it the utility sector over the next 5 years, is very significant. So another way of thinking of it is, our battery is going to be there for all sorts of things. So here's a graph that talks about when solar installations go in, will batteries be with them? And this is saying very clearly that by 2024, 60%, and that percentage will even go higher, of utilities that are building large solar farms will also have very significant energy storage based on batteries. The idea that residential and commercial and industrial will do it the same, clearly there's growth there, but it's very clear that the utility grade installation of alternate forms of energy and storage capacity are a big trend in the near future. So another way of looking at it here is, if I build a large scale 4-hour battery storage system, will the cost go down? So what's the price going to be for kilowatt hour to do that? Or what's the price for megawatt? And I have to apologize, I managed to cut the scale off the bottom of this slide. But the real message in this one is that over the last few years and into the foreseeable future, there is still an ability for the price or the cost to continue to decrease. And this cost decrease, it justifies installations currently as they get lower and lower in terms of cost. So switching away from battery and energy storage and a lot of the things that are traditional, let's talk about something which is more current or more close to what we know in Vancouver. Let's talk a little bit about hydrogen. We understand that the hydrogen economy is something that's talked about a great deal, but one of the realities is that it's still a really early marketplace. A lot of companies are interested in cutting their carbon footprint across their supply chain, and hydrogen-based fuel is set to become a reliable source of low to zero carbon energy. But at the same time, it's still really, really early. So if you look at the trajectory of solar and wind, hydrogen is significantly behind, but at the same time, there is investment in both because there's an understanding the two can be complementary and that it will really change as things move along. Final comment here is that 30 countries have a hydrogen roadmap and have committed public funding to hydrogen technologies. So that's something which is positive and something that we all understand. Some series of hydrogen predictions from Bloomberg, and these are from January, so 3 months ago. If you look at them, I bolded the ones that I think are most important, but number one, electrolyzer sales will quadruple and China will be the largest market. The thing that's interesting though is that the current market for electrolyzers is about 500 million, so it's still relatively small. So even if it quadruples, the investment into electrolyzation is different than the current investment, for example, in storage capacity. But the ability to make electrolyzers more efficient and to reduce the energy cost of creating high value hydrogen is there in the marketplace. So prediction that there will be hydrogen projects, they'll lag a little bit. And that one of the things I find interesting is that net zero will drive hydrogen demand more than carbon pricing. So an interest in circular and an interest by large corporations, cities, municipalities, levels of government, and even individuals to get closer and closer to net zero is something that will drive things. And the final one is something which is quite important. And I'll look at number 7 and say, heavy industry will dominate clean hydrogen demand. So if you are trying to create or use hydrogen and your heavy industry, It means that the need to transport the hydrogen may not be that great. It's not like it's going to be at every single gas station right away. It means that large plants, which can then convert and use clean hydrogen, they're stable, they don't move around a lot. They will be a big part of the landscape as we go forward. And they will be some of the early adopters in terms of looking for clean hydrogen and really making sure that they're able to get the supply of hydrogen they need. Here we see the word blue hydrogen, and there's also green hydrogen. As we go along, we'll talk a little bit more about them. Just before we move on to that, you can see that this is a graph that talks about electrolyzer shipments, 2018 to 2022. Again, it's from Bloomberg. The thing that is very interesting is to show the rate of growth in 2022, and that an optimistic forecast for all of 2022 would be even 30% higher. In other words, the change or the rate of change is really quite impressive in this space. So green hydrogen, which is hydrogen from green plants, different than blue hydrogen, which comes usually from natural gas. So the part of Canada which is poised to be able to produce hydrogen immediately in large quantity is obviously Alberta, but it would be blue hydrogen because they have natural gas. Then when you look along the sort of graph at the bottom, you see in 2028 that Canada is one of the countries which would be creating more hydrogen from green hydrogen. In other words, it would be food waste such as plant oils, a variety of other things like that. Slowly but surely, many countries will develop that capability as they move along. And logically, the ones which are close to the equator, so Brazil, India, a lot of the others with a lot of farming, would fall into that in the early countries for that. So let's, again, I think we're all familiar with, the hydrogen industry. Fuel cells are a big part of the tech industry here in British Columbia. One of the statements we hear repeatedly is that the availability of low carbon intensity hydrogen is something which is retarding or slowing down, pilot production and commercial development. We go back to the days of Ballard. You need very, very high purity hydrogen. So the hydrogen which was used in those days had to come from a special plant in Quebec. So in the North Shore of Vancouver, we know there's hydrogen, which is part of the methane plant that's there, but it's not quite at the level of, we'll call it purity, so that getting to the hydrogen that is used by all sorts of different equipment is different. One thing that is important for us to understand is that half of the country's active companies in the hydrogen industry are located in British Columbia, and the province will be a major player in the future of the hydrogen industry. If you look at a lot of the companies that are doing well, have raised money, are building product, a lot of them are sort of structured or in the hydrogen space. So we would anticipate British Columbia being a leader in terms of creating new technology in the hydrogen area. I just want to drop into water right now. Pick these up from a group called Techonomy, and this is from January 2022. There will be, and this is looking at water, and Jonathan's with us on the panel. He's obviously an expert in this space, but just a couple of statements as we go along. There'll be extreme decentralization is moving into your home. In other words, where people will take responsibility for water production. They'll be storing rainwater, whatever they're doing, it's going to be decentralized. Exponential technologies are taking off, especially ones which allow the creation of water in low humidity environments. And there's a hydration revolution. In the United States, 60 million people don't drink the tap water in their home. This isn't just Flint, Michigan. There's a significant mistrust of tap water. So it's very clear that how we treat water and how it has to be sort of what is clean water is going to be different as we go forward. So some water trends that are important as we look at stuff. We will see remote and digital water management, and this will be all over the place. And this will be in drinking water setups. It'll be in wastewater, that's 0.2 and 0.3. And there will be a very significant amount of water reuse. In other words, we can't just dump stuff into the stream, whatever else. Water will be recycled, or if it is water that's used for industrial purposes, it'll be returned to the industrial purpose and used many times. PFAs is an interesting, it's called perfluoroalkylated substances, which is synthetic chemicals. And these are the types of things that are all the stuff we buy at the home hardware store. You go down, and whether it's paint thinner or everything else, these are the chemicals that end up in the water system. And there will be a very strong interest in trying to remove them and make it easier. And finally, solar will be a big factor in desalination, something that is expected to be a trend over the next while. So final slide I've got here. And this is something which we're bringing in is that everybody's ESG goals. In other words, Deloitte has a survey here saying CEOs want to put more effort into societal issues. In other words, we're going to reduce our carbon emissions. We're more about the environment, more about society. We want to make sure that we're keeping care of our companies, our people, and as much as 58% indicate they want businesses to change their practices. PwC also states that 91% of business leaders believe their company have to act responsibility on ESG issues. And Jeff, just before we started this, sent me a neat article, which was the AT&T ESG report. And it's 30 pages long. They measure about 10 or 15 different things in a dashboard. And they show how they're becoming more diverse, how they're responding to how much trash they put out, all sorts of different things. And they have huge metrics and scorecards to watch the company as it moves ahead. And we see initiatives like that as being a big part of the future as things go ahead. So that's everything I wanted to do here. And I think we're at about 20 minutes, if that's all right, Thouzel. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'd like to invite the other members of the panel to come and join us, if that's okay. So Molly, hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Very good. How are you?
Good. Let's see, who else have we got? Is Jonathan with us? Okay. Vivian Kahn. There's Jonathan. Okay, doke. Vivian Kahn from BDC is also going to join us today. I know she was here earlier on.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah.
That's super.
I can see you, so I don't know where I am on
That's
the
okay.
Brady
There you are.
Bunch
Now you're
kinda
now,
layout
okay.
there.
Here we are, Hollywood Squares. We can
Hi,
see
Vivian.
everybody.
Hi,
All
John.
right. Yeah, excellent. Okie doke. So I have a series of questions that I circulated to the panel in advance. And I think I just start off with one that's really straightforward and ask Vivian to go first and say, why was 2021 such a significant year for climate change investment?
Mm-hmm.
It's a big question. I feel like it wasn't just 1 year. It was, for me, it feels like it's been at least half a decade there. But I think, one thing is definitely that, in 2020, 2021, there were some really clear and really real signals that, and undeniable signals that climate change is wreaking havoc, not just on the environment, but on our economies and causing extensive economic damage. And this kind of urgency, I think, is finally really causing that chain reaction that we need to see throughout sort of our entire economy. So I think from that, you see more urgency from individuals, consumers putting on their companies. You mentioned that ESG data point from PwC, employees urging their employers to do more. So there's a big kind of rally happening, I think, to kind of reinforce that urgency. But I think more importantly, sort of from an investment standpoint, that urgency also kind of leads to buyers helping to kind of pave the way for some of these companies in their path to commercialization. So even if they're, a few years out, indication and signals from customers wanting to buy a particular technology or to implement and adopt particular technology also helps these technology companies go out and show investors that there is a pathway to this commercialization. I think there's also a lot of capital. We talked, you had that I think it was 38 billion. I think it's tracking around 38, 40 billion last year. Another group that I get some data from is a group called Cleantech VC out of the Valley. And they track clean investment data showing about that same globally 40 billion in 2021 across about 600 deals. But a more important stat for me was that they tracked 70 new climate venture firms and funds that were announced in 2021. 70 new funds. That's significant, I think. And then I think on top of that is we're seeing, there is an exit landscape out there that, climate tech investors are seeing, and we can even put aside the SPACs environment, and we think about some of the more commercial and retail investors are becoming more interested in having some public equities that are actually aligned with their values and that are in electrification or in hydrogen. So I think all of those things, and maybe they weren't just in 2021, but I think there was accumulation of a lot of those things happening in 2021 that made it a pretty significant year.
Great. So you used one term which I really like, which is the idea of an exit landscape. So I think we'll try to come back to that topic as we move along. Jonathan, would you like to add to that? Is there anything else that you see as a significant thing?
I'm not sure I can add to Vivian's summary. I thought it was excellent, except maybe just to emphasize a few points. Those of us who've been in clean tech for a while certainly don't see it as a it may look like a blip and a significant increase, but it does feel as though the world of clean tech has been building towards this day. But I think one thought I'd like to leave with you is that decarbonization has become a market, and people are and large companies and governments are willing to pay lots and lots of money for decarbonization. So I just give you one data point locally. There's a reason why Carbon Engineering has done a deal with Oxy to build 70 direct air capture plants, 70 plants. It's tens of billions of dollars of investment to go into a very expensive process. Currently, the cost will come down, but to extract CO2 out of the air. The reason why is because there's a market for that. There's a market for decarbonization. There's a market for carbon offsets at the highest quality. And you can take that idea across virtually every sector, from mining to oil and gas, to pharmaceuticals and chemicals, power generation, transportation. Across virtually every sector, every sector is got plans to decarbonize because it makes business sense to do that. And certainly in the you talked a lot about ESG, Dave. Certainly what I'm seeing in the markets that I'm working in is that ESG is as related to a big company's access to capital and access to talent and access to customers. So if the ecosystem around which these large companies work is putting pressure on all sectors to decarbonize, and they're watching the progress and they're measuring the progress. And as a C-level executive in a large company, and one of my customers said to me recently, if we don't perform at the top of our peer group in ESG, we cannot attract the best and brightest minds to come work in our company, period. And our people are our assets. So there's some very, very significant linkages between ESG today and environmental performance, sustainability performance, and business competitive. So I'll add those thoughts, and I'm sure we'll come back to some of them.
Absolutely. So Molly, before I ask you to comment on that, I know you're with E8 Angels in the US, but not everybody reads the website. So maybe you could introduce yourself and E8 Angels, and then sort of see if there's anything you'd like to add to what Vivian and Jonathan said.
Yes, E8 Angels is an angel investment group that invests specifically in clean technology deals. We've been doing this since 2006, so we've been at it for a long time compared to a lot of the newer funds. We are raising a fund. You'll hear from Jean-Noel Poirier later today. And we have a philanthropic fund that has RFPs each summer. This summer it's going to be agriculture related, and that's the Decarbonate US Fund. We've got about 125 member families at present. We interpret clean technology quite broadly. So across lots of sectors, it's not just electrification and hydrogen. It's very broad. I am the deal screening chair for that group
Super.
at present. So I would like to add a few comments, one of which may be more specific to the US. Our new US president has on his agenda a focus on clean technology. Well, it's translated into some infrastructure money for clean tech. It's also translated into engagement with companies, trying to encourage them to move towards clean technology, and a lot of visibility on the climate tech, clean tech area that may be helping some. I think that investment firms, both public and private, are getting pressure from their investors to evaluate how clean tech and the clean tech and ESG aspects of the companies. I think that's become quite a bit more mainstream to expect that level of evaluation. We've had some very successful companies like Tesla, which made EVs normal and readily available, and has had substantially accelerating sales year over year. And the large legacy car companies have had to respond to that and produce product, seek to compete. And that is relatively new. That's just happened in the last, I know they've had product around for a long time, and there's still challenges to getting the sales channels to sell that product, but it's become more and more, we have to compete on those, in those areas. So I think part of it is the technology is ready for market in a lot of places, and not just EVs, but in a lot of diverse technology. I'll stop there.
Okay, great. Well, we've got a number of other questions. One of the things is that a lot of our audience are angel investors. So what do angels need to consider when investing in clean tech? What are you seeing, and are there examples that would be important for the audience we have here? Wondered who'd like to go first with that one.
I'd be happy to start.
Yeah.
First, you need to have a viable business case, just like any angel investment. And if you don't have a viable business case, if the company hasn't studied their market, understood who their buyers are, proved that their business model is going to work, thought about manufacturing, scaling, exits, all the normal things that angel investment groups do, then it's really not going to have the impact that you would want it to have, that clean tech angels would like them to have. If you can't scale, if you can't sell, you won't have an impact. So that is number one. You need to have a viable business case. You need to do all the things that angel investments are supposed to do. In addition, climate-focused and clean tech-focused angels would like to understand that what they're doing will have a significant impact as the company scales. And therefore, they do look at what that impact is going to be. And if it's just sort of minor, there's a lot of greenwashing going on right now, saying that, oh, we've discovered that we are green after all, even if we haven't changed anything, and we do care. at least the people in my group care a lot, that it will have an impact and a significant impact. But it's not a philanthropy. It's just investing, clean tech investing. You will hear people talking about clean tech investing taking a long time to get results from your investments. It depends on what there are a few barriers to quick returns. And one of them may be if there's a lot of hardware development and manufacturing and new science that has to be sorted out, but it's not just hardware. There's a certain level of defining a new product categories that have to be accepted in many cases. We have a company called Storm Sensor that was developing ways of monitoring what was happening in the water, in the entire wastewater streams and sewage streams in cities. And that's really relevant as the seawater rises, among other things. And they would have an online real-time map of what was happening there with inexpensive sensors. But that's a new product category. And you have to convince cities and municipalities that they need that. And the founder of that company started as a consultant in that industry. So she really knew the industry. And she's been successful at scaling in that industry quite a bit. But whenever you develop a new product category, it might take longer because people are not used to buying that product.
Good. Okay, great, thank you. Additions from Vivian or Jonathan in terms of what angels should be considering.
It's okay, John, I'll jump in. I echo a lot of what Molly said, I think around, around the time it takes. I think it's still really important to keep in mind that horizon, does take time for that commercialization and that scale up. Even though we're seeing a lot of companies use enabling technologies like 3D printing for prototyping, machine learning or advanced computing, synthetic biology, I've heard be,
Uh-oh. I think Vivian just froze. Jonathan, would you like to take over?
Sure, I can add some things while Vivian's coming back on.
From a competitive perspective, these companies do still want to build up that IP moat and that competitive advantage moat, and so that takes time.
Oh, there it is again. Okay, Jonathan, I think if you could go now, that'd be great.
I think for angel investors, I really do think it is important in clean tech to be really aware of the scale of capital required to actually get to revenue and scale revenue. I think that's and so there are still a lot of hardware companies out there in clean tech. Reactors, hardware systems that require a lot of runtime in order to validate durability and validate performance and cost over the lifespan of what they're selling. But to Molly's point, there's also there's new softwares, there's new software technologies that are efficiency driven. There are sensor technologies. Some of these technologies can be much faster to market with and be much more capital light. So I think the capital intensity is important. I think also the business model evolution and the markets that people are selling into. For example, if you're selling into the municipal market, those are long, typically long sales cycles. If you're selling into the industrial market, they can be different. So I think path to market, business model, all really important considerations. Because if it takes, and typically clean tech has taken longer and been required more capital. And if you're an angel investor, you really got to be thoughtful about the impact to dilution and how many rounds of capital you're going to need to go through in order to get to a liquidity event. So all great points. I think I'm just amplifying.
So Vivian, great to see you back. It's nice of you to return. So rather than stay on this one topic, looking at time, I might move on to another question. And I'm going to ask Jeff Hansen, my partner, to join us really briefly for this one. And in the investment progression, it normally has been angels, then venture capitalists, but Jeff suggested that we could cut Vivian and BDC out of the deal here. And we could go angels, then to a strategic investor, such as a corporate, and maybe a partnership with a government agency like SDTC. Jeff, do you want to add to that if you're there, or does somebody want to react to that one?
Well, my comment, David, I wasn't throwing VCs under the bus because, as you know, I used to be one, but is that there's more alternatives available for capital, and people mentioned that ESG aspect in terms of corporate mandates to adopt technology, but it's also that it's driving a lot of their corporate venture investing, that and particularly in some more of the fossil fuel ecosystem, in order to meet their requirements to show initiatives towards ESG, they're having to make strategic investments in clean tech companies.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here. I certainly wouldn't recommend cutting Vivian out of the deal. She's in my deal, and so that would be a
Jeff
terrible.
wouldn't do that.
BDC does it. I'd say it whether you're in the room or not. But I think to your point, in clean tech compared to perhaps even 5 to 10 years ago, there is a lot more diversity in terms of the availability of capital. So there are lots of funds around that are where the LPs are large strategics. There's strategic direct investments. There's also quite an interest from family offices that are focused specifically on sustainability technologies, as well as pure play venture funds, and then some of the public sector funds like BDC and EDC. And SDTC and SIF. And so I think, in terms of thinking about how you capitalize, how you raise the capital for your company, in a clean tech company, you're going to consider all sources. Just a word about strategics. I've got a real bias to you got to be very careful taking money from a strategic, and really know the role that the strategic is going to play in your market, so you don't look like you've actually sold the company. And we've seen some examples of that very recently, where a very promising clean tech company will have a disproportionate amount of their equity owned by a strategic, and that dampens the enthusiasm of other companies to look at buying, because a lot of clean tech companies are sold through M&A. So you've got to be careful in terms of how you pick your strategic. Are they a channel to market? Are they a customer? Are they a prospective acquirer? Where do they fit in the ecosystem? So there's a few thoughts for you.
Yeah, I would just jump in and echo a lot of that. Often when we look at whether a strategic is already on the cap table or coming into the cap table, it's exactly the why. What is driving their investment into the company. We like the ones that have also the financial return interest, and to everything John just laid out, there's there are other objectives sometimes with strategics. So, and again, another point, John made that I'll just reemphasize too, is just around this syndicate of investors. There are more, and when we look at a round, we like it when it's a nice diverse round of VCs and some family offices, and we've seen some really strong family offices in the clean tech space. That write very, with big checkbooks and have meaningful value to bring to the companies too. So
I'd like to add to what Jonathan was saying, which is that we have had some of our companies tell us that they have turned down exit opportunities because people who were trying to acquire them were trying to take away the clean tech competitor to their legacy technology. And so you have to be very careful as you decide whether to exit to a particular company to understand whether that company is trying to add to their clean tech bona fides or whether they're trying to protect the legacy technology approach.
Yeah, great. Dave, one final comment. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Can you hear me? Okay. One final comment. Because governments have such a strong mandate to keep decarbonize, there is a lot of capital in public market, in the public sector for clean tech. So to me, it's not a question of either or. You know, in our company, we've got a very diverse set of shareholders that include family offices, pure play venture funds, strategics, and then we've also leveraged that with some of the public money that's non-dilutive from SDTC, from other sources, from BDC, that have been great partners for us as well. So it's about creating a financial strategy that uses and leverages the best of all the resources out there that are available. And the good news is that there's just a tremendous diversity of capital, and picking your way through and getting some help to figure out how to design that is really the trick shot. Really the trick shot.
So we got about 10 minutes left. So I'd like to ask one more question and then take questions from Q&A if everybody doesn't mind. So just want to change tactics a little bit. I was talking to Wal Van Leeuwen from Chrysalix Technologies just the other day, and he said that if we build more batteries, we're going to need massive amounts of minerals, copper, you name it, and lithium. We're going to need all sorts of different types of materials. So we're going to have to do more mining, using more energy and more water. Jonathan, you and I talked a bit about this before. Is this a big concern, or is this something that's, as we change everything, it's going to happen?
I think that the best way to think about it is that decarbonizing all of these different value chains and is going to require the creation and recreation of a whole number of different industrial value chains. There's really no question about it. And probably one of the most stark examples of that is really the electric vehicle value chain. I mean, it's just completely different from the conventional, combustion engine value chain that we're used to. And there will need to be a tremendous amount of, we know how to mine lithium, but we don't do it very well. And so there's going to need to be a tremendous amount of innovation in how we create and improve and make more efficient that lithium value chain, so that the creation of all these batteries we need doesn't create some colossal environmental sustainability problem, which it has the potential to do. And that goes for all the other metals required. But I think the same is true across other value chains. The solar sector has struggled with materials. As we start scaling up carbon capture, Svante is one of the leading point of use carbon capture companies in the world. They're based here in Vancouver. They just opened a 140,000 square foot manufacturing facility in Burnaby. That's big enough for Svante to build 10 carbon capture plants. We need thousands, and their materials are going to come from BASF. So there's just, Dave, there's going to be a need for this rebuilding of industrial value chains. It's going to create an incredible opportunity, and that's one of the things that McKinsey's pointed out, is that the scale of capital investment in infrastructure, industrial infrastructure, is going to need to be 3 to 4 times what we're typically used to historically going forward in order to decarbonize. So I'll leave you with that.
Molly, could you add to that?
I would add that once you build a battery, you use it over and over and over again for many, many years and decades. So it's not like we're constantly pumping oil out of the ground and using it up and then pumping more oil and using it up. Yes, you need to create these technologies once, for each battery, but they get used for a long, long time. So it's not quite as bad as it may seem. The other thing is that there's a lot of pressure as, in the early technology development, we might be creating technology that requires rare earth metals, but they're not necessarily necessary. Tesla, for instance, recently switched to battery technology that avoided a rare earth metal because they could, and because it's not to their advantage to spend a lot of money working on getting that requires them to take a metal that's difficult to get. And so the further we go along, I think the more we'll have alternative technologies that don't require some of these difficult minerals.
Great point.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Vivian, anything to add?
Yeah, I think that's it. We're seeing, I think the short answer is sure, yes. But the long answer is that we're seeing very different and more sustainable approaches to a lot of these traditional industries. We're seeing a lot of crossover even into the deep tech territory, of how mining is done, how extraction is done. The lithium industry, in Canada, we have companies like Summit Nanotech, who's doing direct lithium extraction in a way that's, to minimize the impact as much as possible. We're invested in a company here in Vancouver, Mangrove Lithium, that is redefining the way that the lithium processing and refining is done and where it's done. And so I think there is going to be, yes, more, but there's also going to be a smarter way of doing it, and a more sustainable way of doing it. And alternative battery chemistries is another one. I've been sort of reading a little bit about what sodium sulfur is supposed to do in the battery world. And then you extend and think beyond that. There's thoughts about what second life batteries, once they're done the 8 to 10 year lifetime in a vehicle. What are OEMs going to do about that when they take them back? How are they going to kind of create a circular economy around that? And then there's also the recycling technologies that are developing around that. Li-Cycle is a Canadian company that benefited through the SPAC market last year, and was able to go public and is building its large a spoke and hub model where they're going to build a large recycling facility in Rochester, New York. So I think we're seeing smarter and better ways of doing things. I think we've learned. I think we're learning from the past of how to do things, and in the lithium sector and in the EV sector, EV battery sector, I think we're going to see this play out. And just one really, I don't know if this might be of interest for people, but the question around the EVs and that carbon and the life cycle piece of it that Molly was talking about, the Argonne National Lab just released a model in which you can kind of put in some variables, the type of car, the type of battery and things, and they actually will kind of derive how long it'll take you in miles, because it's in the States, to sort of reach a break-even point with internal combustion engine vehicles. So if anybody is driving an EV and was curious, go check out. It's called the GREET model, GREET, from the Argonne National Lab down in the States. So I've sent it over to my husband to plug in the info of our Kona Electric to see if we've gotten there yet.
Alrighty, have you got your money back? We got one quick question in the chat from Adam saying, what level of activity has been recently observed around remediating the soil health crisis? Am I correct? This might be about phosphorus, or is it about something else? Anybody want to comment on that one, Molly?
I can say that we've been seeing deals come through that are about improving the soil biome. There's an entire set of life that is there in the soil, in healthy soil, that helps the plants absorb the nutrients And so we've seen a number of startups come through that are talking about additives to soil that will improve the biome. I heard a talk not long ago from a university professor who was talking about how soil becomes saline over time, especially if you put a lot of irrigation, and that's a big problem in lots of parts of the world, and how they were growing new species of plants that had, or growing plants that extracted the salt from the soil. I haven't seen startups around that yet, but we've also seen companies come through that have things probes that you stick in the ground that absorb some contaminants from the soil.
Mhm. Great, okay. So we got about 5 minutes left. And just wanted to go to each one of our panelists and ask if you've got a closing comment or a suggestion for an angel or for an early stage company that's in this space about something you think would be really important for them to understand now versus 5 years ago. What's really different? Everybody's looking at the ceiling. I don't know. That's not good.
I was gonna say that as in all industry, you probably want your companies to be thinking about what mixture of raises they need. What do they need to raise equity for? What do they need to raise loans for? And revenue-based financing of various sorts has become a topic in the angel groups down here, some of them. And I recently attended a lecture from DOE and heard from the loan program. There's a loan program office in the US that helps companies that need to be able to commercially borrow money get to the point that they're bankable. Their technology is bankable, as in that you can do commercial borrowing. And they helped Tesla in the early days, I understand. So there's a lot of different aspects to successfully starting up your company. And it's not all angel investing. It's a mixture, it's a combination of different types of financing, and thinking through that at some stages, at the appropriate stage is good.
Vivian?
Yeah, I would put a particular Canadian angle on it, just to say that, you know, Canada is a clean tech leader. We, as they say, punch above our weight class. You know, last Clean Tech 100 list that came out, 13 of the companies on the list were Canadian. And so for kind of, you look at our size of, you know, the population size and whatnot, I think that's pretty, it's an achievement, which goes to say that that's an ecosystem, right? We're building an ecosystem here, not just in Vancouver and BC, it's across Canada. And we are benefiting from a supportive regulatory system and political environment right now. And so there are a lot of dots to connect. And the best way is to reach out and talk to people, to champions and leaders like John, to angel and fund groups like Molly, to our team, BC Capital, that kind of sits in this kind of one side on the public and one side on the private side. So there's a lot of dots to connect and to make your business or your investment succeed.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna just riff off of Vivian's here. She got the commercial in here for the clean tech ecosystem really well. If you're an angel investor and you're thinking about clean tech investors, we can't be a global leader in software. We got a great software industry in Canada, nor can we be a global leader in some of the other great tech sectors we have. But we really are a leader, a global leader. And if you're investing as an angel in a clean tech company, chances are that there are other clean tech companies and there's expertise that is doing something that is complementary to the markets that you're going into, whether it's mining or oil and gas or heavy industry or carbon capture or water. And you know, these can be, Cleantech can be capital intensive. It can take a long time. Sales cycles can be a long time. So there's a lot of experience now that we have in building these companies and figuring out the business models of how to quickly get to scale. So to Vivian's point, it's a very collaborative sector. Reach out, and there's lots and lots of people and experience to connect with.
Super. And
I would love to say that one of the advantages for a startup to pitch to angels is that they get lots of good questions, and it helps them figure out what questions are good to ask and where they need to find answers. Planning early.
Great, thank you very much. So it's almost 4, and Alzo told me that if I didn't give the microphone back at 4, she'd unfriend me on Facebook. So what I'd like to do is I'd really like to thank all our panelists. There's some great questions in the chat. Our apologies for not getting to all of them, but in any case, it's now time to go and hear from the companies that are pitching for money. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Dave, Molly, Vivian, and John. It was absolutely great to hear all the perspectives. And yes, there are some really great questions in the chat. So if I could ask your indulgence to answer them, you know, in the chat, if you're able to, that would be awesome. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to start the VANTEC presentations. We just finished a fantastic discussion on the Cleantech investment trends, moderated by Dave Thomas from Rocketbuilders, and great panelists, Jonathan Rhone from Axine Water Technologies, Vivian Kahn from BDC, and Molly Shor, who came up north of the border from E8 Angels. So thank you so much for contributing to a really great panel. Some of you missed it, boy, but it was a great discussion. So that's wonderful. And you know what? You can contact these people. Go to vantec.ca and you can actually click on the links and you can actually communicate with the panelists directly. So if you missed it and you got questions, they are reachable. So welcome everybody to VANTEC Angel Network. We've been operating since the last century. We've been meeting every single month since April 1999. And I saw the founder, Mike Volker, on the line. Mike, do you want to say a few words? I mean, you are calling in from your vacation home in Maui.
Yes, thanks, Velzel, and good afternoon, everyone. Glad that you could join us. And I won't say anything more than that, other than welcome to VANTEC, and hope you enjoy the afternoon. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, a lot of changes in 23 years. Anyway, let's get on with it. I'll tell you a little bit about VANTEC, especially for the people who are newer to our community. Oh, there we go. Okay, the mission for VANTEC is to grow our local angel community. And we've had quite a lot of companies that have presented since 1999. We have over 150 members, and a good chunk of these companies have received investments from our members. So here's angel investment by VANTEC by numbers. So in 2021, 102 companies received $19.2 million from our VANTEC members. That's an increase over our 2020 figures, where we had 87 companies and 14.6 million. Now, we are members of the professional angel organizations like Angel Capital Association, based in the States, as well as the Canadian-based National Angel Capital Organization. And we're also supported by NRC IRAP. Data is really important to all of us and to these groups as well, because we use the data on both sides of the border to help grow and support the angel community. So if you get an email asking you to participate in the survey, please do, because the data is really important to us. And we have a number of funds that operate, because so the membership of VANTEC is not just individual angels, but we've got a couple of associated funds that are very active that use VANTEC as a source of deal flow. eFund, we've made 14 investments during 2021, and Woodif, I'm an investor in Woodif as well as a founder in eFund, has made 16 new investments with 20 follow-ons. So very active funds. And of course, south of the border, E8 has their own fund, which I'm sure if you communicate with Molly, she'll tell you all about it. To be members, you could be an individual or a fund, and a full membership is $600 a year. If you are a member of a partner group or a partner fund like VANTEC or eFund, it's reduced to $400 a year. If you can't make it to all the meetings, but you want to catch up later, there's an online membership. The main difference between the full membership and the online membership is that the full membership permits you to attend the meetings in real time. Online, you can still see the meetings, but it would be recorded. In 2022, this year, we're experimenting. We're doing some new things, and we're going to give this a try. Of course, we're always going to be asking for your feedback. Things have changed a lot since our first meeting in April 1999, and we continue to change, hopefully for the better. So one of the changes is that we're doing deep dives. So the full presenters who are presenting today, the Wednesday after VANTEC, so today's the 6th, next week will be the 13th, they will have an option to have an online one-on-one session, deep dives, and that our venue sponsor, SFU VentureLabs, can offer free meeting rooms if they want to meet in person. So contact the companies directly if you want to do a deep dive, and their contact information is on our website agenda at vantec.ca. We're also holding investor meetings online versus in person. Since the pandemic, or before the pandemic, we held it all in person. Since the pandemic, we've been holding it all online. We did an experiment, and those of you who attended the March meeting, thank you so much for experimenting with us. We tried the hybrid model. A lot of tweaks that need to be done, so we're going to revisit that for our May session. So keep an eye on the newsletter, and we'll see what we can do about improving our hybrid meeting experience. We've got lots of active deal sharing meetings, and we're tentatively putting that at the end of April. So, email us. Your thoughts are welcome. And of course, we're putting on office hours. So we have founder office hours as well as investor office hours. Again, check the website if you want to request a meeting. It's pretty easy. Just email us at info@vantec.ca. Like to give a shout out to our annual sponsors. Some of them have been with us almost from the very beginning. I want to say thank you to Fasken, Tandem Innovation Group, Go Recruitment, SFU VentureLabs, Western Pacific Trust Company, Invest Ventures, Raymond James, and OKR Financial. And we have a number of very active community members. I've already told you about eFund and Woodif, which is our associated angel investment funds, but we also do a lot of close work with the Kretzu Forum, Tandem, Go Recruitment, Rocketbuilders, Volition, Spring, and of course, we're members of the ACA and NACO, and we get some support from the Western Economic Diversification. Our agenda today, we're going to start off with community announcements. One of the highlights of VANTEC, when you come to VANTEC, is that we are very community minded. We try our very best to connect with all the other players in our ecosystem, and we have a very vibrant ecosystem. And after that, we get right into the meat where we will have some company presentations. First, some 90-second pitches, either updates from companies who have presented to us before or previews for the first time ever they're presenting to our community, followed by full presentations. And after all that, we've got some founder and investor networking. More about that in a moment. We always want your feedback. For the 90-second pitches, you will see in the chat a chance to vote for your favorite 90-second pitch, because the top companies will be invited back for a future meeting. The full presenters will have the dedicated breakout rooms and please high-level questions. And of course, after you leave VANTEC, we will be sending out a survey because, like I said before, metrics and feedback is very helpful to VANTEC. All right, so let's start with the community announcements. And I believe if you take a look at the vantec.ca website agenda, you will see that all the announcements there. But first up, we have some people who are with us. And I'd like to call Angie Schick to talk about New Ventures BC competition.
Hi, thank you
Angie?
for having me. I'm here. Apologies for the background noise. My son is playing piano class. But I'm here to tell you about the New Ventures BC competition presented by Innovate BC. So we are BC's largest startup competition, and we award $250,000 of non-dilutive cash and prizes to the top most promising tech startups in BC every year. That includes a $10,000 sustainability venture prize this year as well. But in addition to the prizes, we really do hope startups join us for the journey. So that includes mentorship, education, networking, and community and feedback. So it's a 6-month competition for a reason. We want you to take some benefit out of it. So newventuresbc.com is the website for more info, and the deadline is April 11th. And if you're on the other side and you like to work with companies, we're always looking for great mentors and jury members as volunteers for the competition. And feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. New Ventures BC operating almost as long as VANTEC. Great. We have Jean-Noel Poirier from E8 Angels on the line to tell us about E8 Angels.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Jean-Noel.
So I'm actually here to talk to you about the new fund that's being raised in collaboration with E8 Angels. The fund is called E8 Ventures and will work in alignment with E8 Angels, but will be an independent entity. We are targeting a $50 million size for a fund that will be deployed across about 20 companies at seed and Series A. And so the idea is we are raising a venture fund alongside an angel group, and both parties should benefit from it. We are pretty excited about it. We have a great team in place, of venture partners and people from E8 and outside of E8 to deploy. We intend to invest in what we call enabling technologies, which have limited capital risk and relatively short route to markets. Happy to talk about that in more detail for those interested. And we're in the process of raising the fund, and we are shooting for a first close by the summer. And so we should start being operational during the summer and keep raising towards the final close. So that's for E8 Ventures. Again, independent fund, but working together with E8 Angels. We are very interested in Canadian companies, by the way. Being just south of the border, and use our big network in the US to help them enter or grow into the US market. So please feel free to reach out to E8 Ventures to learn more.
Okay, thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Jean-Noel from E8 Angels. Entrepreneurship at UBC, Chang Han. If you're there, could you please tell us about entrepreneurship at UBC?
Of course. Thanks, Lizelle. Startup founders, investors, and guests, allow me to introduce some announcements from Entrepreneurship at UBC. My name is Chang Han. I'm the lead entrepreneur in residence at UBC, and we support founders and ventures in our incubator and accelerator programs. At UBC, we work with about 100 ventures each year, and we work to meet our dual mandate. One, to develop and increase entrepreneurial thinking, and two, to support the building of world-changing ventures. Let me share with you what's coming up. Save the date on Wednesday, April 20th for Entrepreneurship at UBC's Spring Social and Fireside Chat with Bob Chamberlain. He's the former chief counselor of the Kwikwa-Sutanuck Hakwamish First Nation and vice president, Union of BC Indian Chiefs. We'll be in conversation with our climate venture studio lead, Dr. Shannon Bard, and this is happening in person at our UBC Point Grey campus in the Robert H. Lee Alumni Center. You can RSVP at our events page at entrepreneurship.ubc.ca. Also coming up is our annual 2022 Investor Showcase. May 10th, we will be presenting the ventures that are fundraising from our Hatch Venture Builder. This is also happening in person, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., May 10th, downtown at our UBC Robson Square offices. We'll also be making it available online by live stream. Learn more, reach out to me. You can email me at chang.han@ubc.ca.
Great, thanks a lot, Chen. Next up, SFU VentureLabs. That happens to be our venue sponsor. So Leslie Duncan, could you talk to us about SFU VentureLabs?
I certainly can. Thank you very much. So here we go. So yes, SFU VentureLabs is, for those of you who don't know, it's the accelerator for science and tech companies, a bit later stage. We are associated with SFU, but you do not need to be an SFU company to work with us. We are accepting applications for our earlier stage venture acceleration program, our scale up programming, and any of our client companies can work with our marketing power up program, where you actually get support creating a deliverable for your company. And we are open for hosting events again. So our 11th floor concourse, where we usually have the VANTEC meetings, we have sorted out the hybrid issues. So Yazil, we're happy to walk you through how we made that go. And as mentioned, the meeting rooms are also available. In terms of the programming that we have coming up, our market validation training is starting. We have an info session tomorrow, and that set of courses will start on May 9th. You can sign up at venturelabs.ca. I'll post all of the links in the chat after this. We also have, as David mentioned earlier, working with multinational corporations or companies. So we're featuring people from SAP, AWS, Microsoft, and CGI. So this will be on site in person, April 25th. We have an innovation community roundup, so sort of bringing together all of the partners to see what's going on and what's happening in the next quarter. That will happen May 4th. 2 Garibaldi Capital series, one on improving SaaS metrics, one on best practices, April 29th and May 18th. And then we're also starting a new marketing boost program to help companies create and improve their digital marketing capacity. So there'll be more to come on that, and that's sponsored by the Discovery Foundation. So those are our up and coming events, and you can email me at Leslie@VentureLabs or our general line to find out more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leslie. That was SFU VentureLabs. Chang, time to change hats because you're going to tell us about Genome BC.
Like many entrepreneurs, I have more than one hat. So I'm taking off my UBC hat to put on my Genome BC hat. At Genome BC, we're a catalyst for life sciences cluster for British Columbia, excuse me. We've got a portfolio of over $1.1 billion in 425 different research projects in both science and technology platforms. We invest in research, entrepreneurship, and commercialization. On May 12th, we have an all-day event coming up on the climate emergency. You can register at events.genombc.ca/genomics-forum-2022. Also, we've just announced the award recipients for our $1.5 million grant funding, and this is to fund research for an innovative new pilot grant. We've also published an extensive update on our organization's overall strategic plan. You can check it out. You can find it by Googling Genomic Strategy Update. Our I² fund is where we invest in ventures, primarily in human health. We've already funded a number of great companies with our I² fund, and we're hoping that the next investment might be in the human health, pharma, or biotech company that you introduce us to. Here's a quick snapshot of how our I² fund works. And here's what we like to look for in our target companies. Notice that although we focus on human health and therapeutics, that's not exclusive for where we will invest. So if you know a company that might be a good fit, please reach out. You can hit me here at chan@genomebc.ca. Join us in the National Genomics Network. Apply for our I² fund.
Great, thanks a lot, Chang. Everybody, sneak preview of what's coming up on the VANTEC schedule. June 1st, 2022 will be our annual focus on life sciences and health tech. Okay, next up, we Hillary Travis, could you please tell us more about Foresight Accelerator?
Hello, my name is Hillary Travis, and I'm the new director of British Columbia here at Foresight, Canada's Cleantech Accelerator. We bring together partners. We bring together partners to identify, commercialize, and adopt the clean technologies needed to address today's most urgent climate change challenges. I'm here to talk about three things. First of all, our new project called the BC Net Zero Innovation Network. This network has been being created to help BC clean tech sectors and regions we have existing strengths in to break down silos, scale technologies, and increase local economic development. How it's going to work is through a focused regional and sectoral innovation hubs or clusters, and we're going to be starting with mining, water, and the bioeconomy, likely followed by hydrogen and others. And through the overarching network, we'll be sharing best practices, provide province-wide networking and connection opportunities, as well as provide an advisory and oversight role. The regional hubs, which will be the main focus, will be leveraging the local strengths, finding the gaps, connecting existing programming, peer networking, essentially solution seeking for the unique circumstances or needs of the different communities, industry facilities, or local supply chains. And things within the network are moving along with Pacifican and the BC government looking to come on as partners, and we're building up partnership with industry, investors, and academia. Two other quick things happening at Foresight. Applications are still open for our spring Kickstart cohort. Should anyone know early stage innovators looking for a guided path to flesh out their business ideas, this closes April 15th. And on April 20th, 9 to 11 a.m. is our demo day for our latest cohort. And we will have a new and engaging format that will allow attendees to connect with the companies through breakout rooms, exhibitor booths, and speed dating style matchmaking. So please check that out. I will put my contact information in the chat if anybody wants to reach out about the BC Net Zero Innovation Network or anything else Foresight is working on. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So that's our community. And you know what? We have our own community announcement. We're growing and we're looking for the right stuff. So we're looking for a community manager. I believe Frank Leffler, if you're on the line, do you want to just say a few words about what we're looking for in a community manager?
Yes, totally. Thank you. We're looking for somebody that's passionate about supporting early stage companies and connecting them with investors. We want to spend a little bit more time on getting to know the new investors that join our new network, and this person will actually help us do that. So it's really a role that that can be shaped as we go. We believe that there's tremendous opportunity, and we're looking forward to hear from the right people that want to learn more about this opportunity.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right. We also have a number of upcoming events, both on the investor side and community events. Take a look at our website agenda at vantec.ca. Click on today's calendar and you will see these events listed. And remember, I told you that you can contact these people that have been speaking directly. You can click on those links too. They're all listed. All right, so when we do our presentations, we'll be starting with our 90-second pitches. And of course, then you will be asked to vote for your favorite 90-second pitch, because then they will be invited to pre-screen for a chance at a full presentation. The full presenters will be given 5 minutes to make their case to you, and then we'll go right into networking and breakout rooms. We'll start with 2 cycles of 10 minutes apiece, where each full presenter will have their own dedicated breakout room. After that, everybody comes back to the common room and we will have random pairing rounds until the close of our meeting. House rules. Look at that lovely picture. So we love to see your faces. So if you could turn on your camera so our people, our VANTEC team can take a picture of us, that would be awesome. But mute yourself. We want to see you but not hear you. Mute yourself when you're not presenting. Phone and PC notifications off when presenting and networking, and really take advantage of the networking breakout session. I mean, network, make new connections, exchange your contact information. This is how it's all done. This is how we get to know each other in the community. If we know each other, we can support each other. But that doesn't mean soliciting unless you're a presenting entrepreneur. And when you identify yourself, please identify yourself with a company, investor, or community name. Tips for entrepreneurs. Well, network. That's about a good summary with what you should be doing. Make sure that you keep all your profiles up to date. VANTEC is a participant in a monthly Pacific Northwest investor group, of which the E8 is one of our fellow Pacific Northwest angel groups. And we share our companies so that we get exposed. These companies will get exposure to an angel investors both north and south of the border. And there's lots of ways to connect with us and with each other. Companies, keep your GUS profiles up to date. We provide a DocSend, which is a one-click access to all of our members, to your DEX profiles, everything else. We have Slack. We like to hear your feedback on the company feedback forms. And of course, we got the investors deep dive, and this is where you contact the companies directly if you want to have a deep dive session. Again, lots of ways to connect and contact with us. Our website, vantec.ca. Email us with anything, really anything. info@vantec.ca, and we're on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. With that, we're going to move into the long-awaited company presentation, and we start with updates. Our 90-second pitch, and Origen Air is up.
Excellent. Hi, my name's Susan Blanchette. I'm the CEO of Origen Air. First COVID and then the Great Resignation. The focus since the 80s on energy efficiency has made buildings so airtight they are dangerous. A bright, healthy indoor work environment is not a perk, it's a necessity. Unless you can offer employees safer and healthier spaces than they have at home, they will not be coming in today. Employees are migrating to greener pastures. At Origen Air, we provide those greener pastures with living air purifiers. We are experts at building psychological and physical safety and are here to help companies demonstrate their commitment to sustainability and the wellness of their employees. The Pinnacle is a beacon of health based in science. We combine the magic ingredient, bioengineered plants validated to metabolize toxins the same as your and my liver does, with premium HEPA and IoT sensors. We use sensors by Airsset, who will be presenting later, and we report air quality all in a self-sustained chamber that we just have to plug in, sit back, and enjoy the oasis. We are the only ones who can do this because we have a global exclusive license to our patented plants. At Origen Air, we are here to keep your staff happy by breathing life back into your buildings. So we've raised $376,000 in the last 3 weeks, and we're $74,000 away from closing our 1.3 mixed round. We're in the final stages of due diligence with several investors. We have 10 units installed in Vancouver and Victoria, contracts for 20 units. We plan 200 to 250 installations this year, and we offer an ESG report with 6 points for our clients. Recently named 10 to watch and pitching Dragon's Den May 11th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Origen Air. Next up is Solaire Enterprises. Sahar, you're up.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Sahar Sam, the CSO and co-founder of Solaire. Imagine if we could capture the sun's energy from anywhere, from windows, building facades, electric vehicles. However, conventional silicon technology is not suitable. We need a new material and technology to fulfill the requirements for those applications. At Solaire, we make solar cells with a new material called perovskite, which can produce 2 times higher power compared to silicon. Our goal is to develop a flexible and light solar panel that can be installed on any surfaces, such as electric vehicles or cell phones. To do so, we need to create a new manufacturing process that uses a perovskite ink. The road to photovoltaic film is still some years away. However, we developed a unique perovskite ink that attracted attentions from industry. And as a result, last quarter, we started selling our solar ink while we continue working on our manufacturing process. We have 120 lead and a weighted sales pipeline of over $4 million. We have sent our ink to 15 customers, from which we received positive feedback and repeated purchases. This is a $768 billion market. We are raising $2 million. We have received investment from multiple VANTEC investors. There is still room for $600,000 if you're interested in investing in Solaire. Act now. We're closing the round in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Solaire Enterprises. Next up is Lucent Biosciences.
Yes, hi. So my name is Michael Riedijk. I'm the CEO of Lucent Bio, and we are on a mission to deliver solutions for crop nutrition that accelerate the transformation of agriculture to sustainability. So our product that we have developed is a bioactive crop nutrition for broad acre crops and specialty crops with improved productivity and soil health. And what makes it outstanding is that it has a low carbon footprint and it's non-polluting and ready for regenerative agriculture. So the milestones that we have achieved over the last 6 months were that we raised 4.5 million in October last year. We finished 70 field trials. We built a 10-ton-a-day pilot plant in Humboldt. We sold out all of our product that we had ready for the spring season, signed 8 agreements with distributors and partnerships with 6 global ag input companies. And the big one is that we received a $7 million grant to build a large commercial plant. So this is a picture of that plant in Rosetown. It's going to produce 20 tons a day, and we have an opportunity to scale to 5 other facilities. So we're actually closing another seed round right now as a convertible note and a safe of $7.5 million. We have 6.2 covered already, so there's a little bit left with a cap of 60 million, a discount of 30%, and a 36-month term. And we're looking to do a Series A in Q1 next year of around 20 million at a $75 to $100 million pre-money valuation. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was Lucent Biosciences. Thank you, Michael. Next up is Square Solar.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm founder of the Square Solar. Have you ever tried to install solar panel before? Indeed, adoption and installation is really challenging for most people like us. Besides putting it on the rooftop, we don't know where to put it. A user-friendly solution is really important for us to use this energy. Our patented modular solar panel is an integrated solution. It works like a puzzle. It can be expandable, customizable, bendable, and portable to help solar more feasible in user environment. The feasibility of a modular solar panel gives user imagination how to expand their system according to their own situations. Different mounting supply and accessory help installation process easier and DIYable in order to save expensive installation costs, like IKEA. For 9 billion residential market, there's a great opportunity for DIY solar panel, which give user a simple and cheaper option. We are now working with different kind of university on developing accessory to cope with different kind of situations. I do believe solar energy can be much more easier for everyone because I have experienced the pain before. We are here to invite you to be our co-founder and investor for our venture. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Square Solar. Novion, you're up next.
Hi everyone, I'm Rafat and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Novion. And at Novion, we help cities become climate resilient by helping them monitor and manage the green assets with sensor and software solutions. So over the next 5 years, cities all over North America are spending over $50 billion on green assets and as a cost-effective solution to prevent flooding. And once these assets are constructed, they need to be continuously monitored for design compliance and ongoing maintenance. And that is what we help cities with. So what we have done is we simplified the data logger installation process and automate the entire insight generation process for green asset monitoring. And as a result, what we have done is we have taken a 12-month-long process and we do it in seconds. So our solution is a cloud-based solution, and that aggregates data from different sensors and weather data to generate actionable insight in real time that pinpoints underperforming assets for the city. And unlike existing solutions, like monitoring solutions or consulting companies, our product requires no technical expertise to deploy, easily integrates with the solution, and is massively scalable in comparison. Based on the number of metropolitan cities in North America, we estimate our beachhead market to be around 250 million. And we plan on capturing this market using our hardware sales, software licensing, and professional services. So we have a founding team with expertise in IoT, data analytics, and myself have experience working with government organizations in the capital planning space for over 3 years. And with all of that, we have already implemented our solution with the city of Vancouver. And so far, they're absolutely loving it. And we're already in discussion of a contract renewal. Currently, we're getting ready to start our seed round in Q4 of 2022. And we hope to come back and do the full presentation to give you more details of our business. Thank you.
Thank you, Novion. Very interesting. Next up is NANOSentinel.
NANOSentinel is enabling trace metal analysis in real time. My name is Vivian, CEO and co-founder of NANOSentinel. Trace metal analysis is not time and cost effective, and this is a problem in many industries. Fuel cell manufacturers need to monitor trace metals in their water to prevent their units to permanently fail. An on-site lab is expensive and hard to maintain, and contracting this service from off-site labs delays work for at least 2 weeks, impacting the bottom line. NANOSentinel fills these gaps with the world's only portable technology to detect trace metals. It is a portable, automated, and fast mini laboratory. Our device yields results in only 4 minutes using 1 drop of sample and producing less waste. It has a friendly user interface and does not require calibration. 2 weeks ago, we did our first paid demo in Ontario. The client is an international leader in diesel engines and a patient early adopter. We're now in conversations to onboard them with our annual subscription. We bring value to our customers by combining our expertise in chemistry, sensors, electronics, and software. And our scientific and business advisors helped us communicate this to the market. Our seed round is now open. Please get in touch if you'd like more information. And if you have any contacts in the fuel cell or the mining industries, we would appreciate some introductions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, NANOSentinel. Everybody, please take a look at chat. Besides all the contact information that our enterprising entrepreneurs have put in there, there is a link for you to choose your favorite 90-second presentation. The top voted companies, as I've said before, will be invited to a pre-screening session. And they may be chosen to make a full presentation. So take a moment to vote. And while you're doing that, we're going to start with the full presentations. All of these companies have been referred to us by our community partners, and or they have presented 90-second pitches before in the past, and they went through pre-screening, and now they are ready to make full presentations with you. And afterwards, all the presentations are done, they will have their dedicated networking breakout rooms where you can ask them more probing questions. If you really want to probe, you can ask them for a deep dive session. So first up is Reviv. And how we work is that we get the angel sponsor to introduce the company and tell us why we should pay special attention. And for Reviv, we have Joaquim Miro. Joaquim, you're up.
Good morning. My name is Joaquim Miro. I'm a serial entrepreneur and active investor that's now scaled a few companies to over 100 million in valuation in less than 2 years with over 100 employees. I sit on a council for the Canadian Marketing Association and have advised hundreds of startups through Holt FinTech and Founders Institute. Adam is one of the hardest and most importantly, smartest working people I've ever met. His vision to change the world is bold, timely, and in my opinion, very attainable. Every time I'm on a call with him, which is almost daily, he has a piece of news that moves the needle as he focuses on what needs to be done and then does it. Feel free to reach out for more information.
Hi everyone, my name is Adam Rajguru. I'm the founder of Reviv, a company offering a scalable, regenerative upcycling innovation for global sustainability. That was Joaquim, who's in Portugal right now, so we pre-recorded, and Dr. Andrew Chinger, who's part of the VANTEC Angel Network, is another advisor and shareholder who's on vacation, but wanted me to say hi to everyone for him. Growing up with a father in manufacturing engineering, efficiency and innovation were always guiding principles for me. After bouncing back from some extraordinarily challenging curveballs life threw at me, however, I found myself less interested in gizmos and gadgets and much more into how to use systems thinking to reduce unnecessary chaos and dysfunction in the world. While earning my bachelor's degree in materials engineering at McGill, I was paying close attention to the highest impact ways to heal the planet from decades of unchecked growth fueled by excessive consumption. When I visited my sister in Bali just before COVID and saw the once pristine beaches strewn with plastic for miles, I was introduced to the severity of a crisis I had previously overlooked. Did you know that 1 million tons of plastic are produced each day, the vast majority of which will end up in landfills or oceans? This represents over $20 billion in losses from wasted materials each year without even considering the unfathomable environmental damages. In developed countries, it's easy to ignore this rapidly escalating issue, but it's not long until the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, currently bigger than my home state of Texas, becomes the next territory sought by Putin. Plastic takes hundreds of years to degrade, and in the meantime, infiltrates our ecosystem as toxic microplastics. In fact, just a few weeks ago, a study announced the discovery of microplastics in human blood for the first time, which were present in 80% of subjects. From the Mount Everest to the deepest oceans, plastic is found everywhere, and until now, no good solution has been found. You might ask why we should worry about plastic with issues such as climate and soil health posing more critical threats. I felt the same until my discovery of an intersectional, synergistic solution that offers simultaneous remediation of not only plastic waste, but also greenhouse gas emissions and soil health. Reviv's patent-pending upcycling process transforms plastic waste into valuable products, green fuels, and regenerative soil nutrients known as biochar. Unlike other alternatives that either incinerate plastic for pollution and relatively little energy, or shred it and turn it into lower quality plastic, delaying the problem, our method is carbon negative, self-powering, and quite profitable. The process is based on a well-established thermochemical technique called pyrolysis, which has previously been explored with extensive, unsustainable chemical agents to improve its efficiency. Some companies, such as UK-based Clean Planet Energy, featured on the cover of the UN Climate Change Conference and recently receiving a $400 million investment from Fortress Construction, have begun to catch on to the profitability of plastic pyrolysis with sophisticated downstream processing techniques. Others, such as Charm, which has carbon offset clients such as Microsoft, recognize the economic and environmental benefit of pyrolysis for creating carbon credits from organic waste. Reviv is first to market in employing brand new research on the powerful synergy in a proprietary combination of these two techniques, using organic waste to facilitate a trash-to-treasure plastic upcycling operation capable of cleaning up the environment while generating high-value outputs in a simple and robust model. Pyrolysis has flown under the radar with the world's attention scattered and the plastic problem poorly appreciated. But by connecting the dots and seeing the big picture, we at Reviv will make this field a multi-billion-dollar industry. One relatively low-cost processing facility that can use existing machinery generates millions of liters of fuel and kilotons of the carbon-negative biochar. I probably don't need to tell you about the growing demand for fuel, and due to the soil health crisis, the market for organic fertilizer products such as this has never seen more rapid growth. We will do business with agricultural and fuel operations for feedstock supply procurement and offtake agreements while making additional revenue from carbon credit and plastic removal markets. With the revenue from these initial plants, we will expand to high impact locations around the world where hundreds of thousands of tons of plastic are entering the ocean each year while optimizing downstream processing for improved margins. In essence, we provide a scalable solution to one of the biggest sustainability crises facing humanity with several back-end environmental and social benefits. We have access to an abundant supply of free input material, which we turn into valuable commodities, offering extraordinary ROI potential, all while addressing the greenhouse gas and soil health crises. And we are just getting started. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Reviv. Everybody, take a look in the chat function. You should see a link to a company feedback form. Now, people have said, well, we don't give enough time for the company feedback. I'll tell you, just go with your gut instinct. That's usually very accurate. But this is also a chance for you to put your contact information if you want the companies to contact you directly. Of course, there's lots of opportunities for you to be in contact with each other, because besides this feedback form, there will be a dedicated networking breakout room. And plus there's the opportunity for deep dive next week. Right. Next company that's going to be showcased as a 5-minute presentation is 7 Leagues Leather. And we have angel investor Frank Lefflar, who's going to tell us why we should pay attention to 7 Leagues Leather.
Yes, I was recently introduced to 7 Leather and Tasha through Foresight, and I thought the job that they're doing in our ecosystem and across the food value chain by upcycling fish waste into high quality leather products that can be made by local craftspeople and sold and turned into a viable business was a really interesting valuable opportunity for us to learn about. And so that's why I thought it would be great to have Tasha join us today and share what she and her team are doing with some of the unique technologies that they've developed and are bringing to market here soon. Go ahead, Tasha.
Fantastic, thank you. So good afternoon, I'm Tasha Nathanson of 7 Leagues Leather. We're a circular economy fish leather tannery and fish leather boot startup. A fish fillet only takes up about 50% of the fish. So not only is the other half of the fish often wasted material, it's also lost economic value. Between 1981 and 2018, the Icelandic fish catch dropped by 45%, but the market value only reduced by 15% because they had moved to a 100% fish national policy. Leather is a beautiful, high-value use for wasted skin, but most leather today is made with chrome, which is putting the industry under the spotlight for bad practices. Vegan leather is no solution because most of them depend on plastic as a binder, which is a lower quality, and it contributes to the plastic pollution problem, and it leaves wasted skins and hides behind because they continue to be there as a byproduct of food processing. We make fish leather using tannins, which are plant compounds. This makes a thicker, higher quality leather. Our proprietary process is developed by our European trained tanner in consultation with an Icelandic fish tanner, bringing together the most modern industrial standards for leather production with experience in fish tanning. We use no toxic chemicals or metals or plastics in any part of our process. We've designed a waste recapture system for circular water use, and we're partnering with First Nations in fisheries and forestry to ensure that our enterprise is solidly placed to navigate the changes in fish and forest tenure. Fish leather is part of the large global leather industry, and it has multiple applications. It's an eco niche within the leather industry. Fish leather is stronger per thickness than other kinds of leathers because it has a crisscross structure underlying the skin as compared to the more parallel structure of mammal skin. This makes a thin, flexible, durable skin with a high tensile strength and a beautiful scale pattern. BMW offers fish leather detailing as an option. Prada, Gucci, Nike, and others have also begun to experiment with fish leather. 2 years ago, Lacoste expressed an interest in 7 Leagues leather, having heard that we were setting up in Canada. The pull-on Chelsea boots that we're designing are aimed at consumers who put a premium on distinctive eco-fashion. This also puts fish leather into the public eye to familiarize people with the product. We will be the only fish leather tannery in Canada. Our plan, once established, is to replicate our micro tannery concept up and down this coast, as well as coast to coast to coast, depending on which way the indications run. We're the only tannery currently that is working with wild Pacific fish species. We've designed our production to be initially conservative, but with the ability to scale up quickly as the market demands. Vertical integration of our wholesale leather line and our shoes gives us the flexibility to shift resources to the area that is performing better. Our shoes will use commissary production to keep costs down. Based on current projections, we're seeking $100,000 this year and up to $150,000 next year. The first $100,000 will fund equipment, inventory, and general working capital. I come to this project with a background in value-added agriculture and international development. John is a CPA, MBA, and runs a finance and strategy consulting firm. Jen is the head of design for Science World and has also worked in the past for Fluvog. Edgar has an undergrad in chemistry and a graduate degree in leather technology from his native Spain. He also has industry experience from there. Jackson brings training in marketing and is a First Nations person with an interest in Indigenous business. I want to thank you all for your time and look forward to your questions. Looks like I went a little bit fast, but perhaps that leaves us time for more questions afterwards.
Thank you very much. Okay, everybody, you know the deal. Take a look at the chat function. You will see the link for you to give feedback to 7 Leagues Leather. And of course, Tasha will have her own dedicated breakout room after all the presentations are done. So please share your contact information if you want to get in touch with Tasha. I'm sure she'd be very happy to hear from you. Next full presenter is Tradle and Floyd Simons. If you're in the audience, could you please tell us why we should invest in Tradle?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, my background, I'm a tech founder, particularly internet-related platforms, mostly in Europe and Southeast Asia. I'm also a very active EIR and mentor at a couple of different accelerators. I've seen many of the companies here today already before, particularly at SVU VentureLabs as well as Foresight. And the latter is how I met Blythe as well. I'm also an angel investor, by the way, for context. Blythe, we've been working together at Foresight for a little over a year now, I believe, and he's a really great guy with a really important idea. During this time, I've witnessed a lot of personal growth in terms of really going into the role and professionalizing the path of the company in front of him. There's been really great development there. He is right now in the very enviable position that he has a backlog of customers that he can't service because there's no inventory. And all these are attracted organically up to this point. And he needs an influx of money effectively to service those customers that are just clamoring for his services, as well as professionalize operations so he can tackle the logistics element as well. That's it.
Thanks, Floyd. Assuming you can hear me, my name is Blythe, and I'm the founder and CEO of Tradle. And we are a circular clothing platform for kids because we all love and sometimes cry when they outgrow their clothes so quickly. And as I'm sure you all know, the world has a textile waste problem where on average, clothing items get used 6 times before being thrown away, resulting in the equivalent of 1 garbage truck per second being sent to a landfill or an incinerator. If you have kids, you know just how many clothes they go through, outgrowing up to 7 different sizes in the first 2 years alone. It can be expensive and overwhelming. And with tiny clothes come tiny margins. So brands need to sell more in order to keep making more. So Tradle has a business model solution where instead of selling clothes, our circular clothing service helps parents to have, use, outgrow, and easily exchange entire wardrobes whenever there's a growth spurt, all for a simple monthly subscription fee. It's affordable to have top quality clothes. That's very convenient and sustainable. So there's less time shopping, more time parenting. Our revenue share business model also helps brands to earn more money by selling less as they profit from the use of their product over its entire life cycle. And this baby and toddler clothing market alone is almost a $10 billion opportunity in North America, where right now Tradle is just focusing on the 25% of millennial parents in Canada striving towards a lighter living lifestyle, which is still a big $160 million a year number. Our early traction has provided some really great metrics, the most important being that once customers join, they stick with us for almost the entire 2-year subscription with a lifetime value of around $1,500, with many parents asking if they can continue into older ages. We have a very generous grandparents already paying for subscriptions, and this is a huge untapped opportunity, but right now we're focused, as Floyd said, on fulfilling the current member waitlist backlog. For our brand partners, this revenue share model is expected to double their profit margins for top quality clothes that get used and reused over and over again. Higher quality stuff that lasts longer makes more money and is the opposite to fast fashion. But to make it work, we need good product usage data as well as an efficient asset management system. So I'm excited to share that we have a first of its kind pilot project where we're partnering with a Fortune 500 company to use their new digital ID technology, RFID and QR code tags, to collect this life cycle product usage data and to make our service center efficient, viable, and scalable. Our short-term goals are pretty simple: prove the market by growing to over 500 customers, successfully complete this pilot, and create a scalable microservice system like our friends at Chop Value. Once we achieve these goals, we plan to raise our next financing round with a proper valuation using market comparables, so we can expand these microservice centers into neighborhoods throughout Canada to minimize the logistical carbon footprint. Our platform is starting with baby clothes, but this model applies to any durable, high quality product. I believe what software as a service did to the digital world, products as a service will do to the future of commerce in the real world. I have 8 years in startup marketplace experience with an environmental science background, and I am loving this transition towards a circular economy. Jody, our fractional CMO, recently joined this week, and I'm super excited to have her. She brings 20 years of experience in brand strategy and managing big projects with companies like MEC. Jason Jones, our fractional CTO, who was our Foresight Cleantech advisor, I've convinced him and he's excited to join to help get this digital ID pilot project going. And we have a COO opening, as you can see, but with ongoing discussions, open to connecting with your networks if you might have that ideal product founder type fit for me. Nick Claxton and Jamie Stone have been great advisors, and Floyd's just been phenomenal. And as you can see, we're raising a 750,000 pre-seed round as a convertible note to use a little bit on marketing, grow the inventory, and make some key hires to fulfill this waitlist backlog and to launch this first of a kind digital ID pilot project. And I'm happy to talk more about it soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Everybody, take a look at the chat function. Fill out your feedback, share your contact information. Just to let you know, your feedback is really important to these companies because often VANTEC is the first stop for them as they do their capital raise. And we share all the feedback directly with the companies. So it's really important. So please do your best to fill these out for them. I'm going to ask Frank Leffler to come back on stage because he's going to tell us about reusables and why reusables deserve our attention and money. Frank?
Thank you. Yes, as an investor, but we focus on ag tech and food tech and looking for companies that are transforming the value chain with clean tech, and in this case, reducing food packaging waste. I was happy to be paired with Anastasia as her executive in residence at the Foresight Clean Tech Accelerator for the past few months. I've been really impressed by how the company is tackling this program of packaging waste, from starting off on the retail side to also adding closed loop relationships and seeing real proof of traction and stickiness there. So really impressed what Jason and Anastasia are doing for the team. Also impressed by the supporting software technology that is making this all possible for the different people in the ecosystem, because clearly this requires some operational changes. I would like to hand over the microphone to Jason from here.
Thanks a lot, Frank. And thanks so much to the VANTEC team for having us. My name is Jason Hawkins, and I'm the CEO and co-founder at Reusables.com. I'm accompanied by my co-founder, Anastasia Kiku, as well. So Reusables.com is a zero-waste packaging platform, and we're tackling the very large problem of single-use packaging waste. Probably won't come as a surprise to anyone on the call, but if we don't change our current linear consumption model, our environment's going to be a wasteland. And the truth is that we've learned that we're not alone in supporting this movement. We interviewed and surveyed more than 2,000 Vancouverites in our early days, and we found very similar data to what's reported here by Boston Consulting Group. Young people are really tired of feeling guilty about the packaging waste that they have. But it's not only people. Brands are also competing on sustainability. Many of you might have seen the announcement from Starbucks. Well, they're not alone either. They need technology, they need data, they need distribution and infrastructure to be able to move towards a circular economy. Governments as well are accelerating this transition. So taking the feedback from customers and brands, they're transitioning through legislation. What about the opportunity side? So when we looked at this, we looked at the total food packaging market, and understanding that today reusables actually only makes up about 2% of the total food packaging market, but we're expecting a huge growth in the next 3 to 5 years due to the acceleration of these trends. So Reusables.com is a scalable software platform at its core. And what we do from a business model perspective is we circulate stainless steel reusables through a network of users and retailers and brands. So we have a B2B platform as well as a B2C, where we charge a monthly subscription to both. And then there's a per use fee for the stores who want to offer reusables to their customers. We also have a software platform that we're licensing to companies in various markets so they can operate and offer reuse. Our technology is sort of a reusables management system, as we call it. And there's 3 main components to it. There's an operator portal where all the magic happens. And the reuse app is available for anyone who wants to be able to reduce their own impact. The store app connects through the system, and we track every single container using a QR code or an RFID chip. So some of the containers you'll be able to see on the slide here. And we're really excited to be able to share the traction that we've had. So we already have over 1,000 members, 50 store partners, and we really focused on food delivery and takeout in our onset. So that's where we launched, but we've received inbound interest from a variety of other segments that we're now exploring, as Frank mentioned, including campuses, grocery, and even offices and production sets as well. So the team behind what we're doing here is really deep and energetic. We've got a very focused approach on what we're doing, and we're excited to be able to share that we have deep expertise within food, within supply chain, and also with technology as well. Our growth roadmap to date is the milestone we completed was the pre-seed, which we received about $350,000, including investment from Ryan Holmes. at LOI Venture. We're currently raising a seed round, and we expect to have about 200 locations by the end of the year, followed by an expansion to the US and other markets where we'd like to have our growth in the milestone 3. So the investment we're looking for right now is a capped safe, and we're going to be using those proceeds to build our network, have an initial launch in the US in Seattle, and then continue to develop our IP as well as strategic partnerships and the building of our brand. Thank you very much.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you very much, Reusables. Everybody, please give your feedback by clicking on the link in the chat function. You know how this goes. Their feedback is really important to them. And of course, you'll have a chance to ask some deeper dive questions in the network breakout rooms. And of course, next week when they do their deep dive session. Next up is Spraywerx. I'm going to ask Sean Irvine to talk about why he thinks and why we should think like he does about Spraywerx technologies. Sean? You're on mute. There, that's better.
Cool. Good to see you again. Anyway, thank you for having us. I appreciate it. My name's Sean Irvin. I'm the managing director of Mojo Ventures, and I have a small angel investment fund, about 25 bets in it. And one of my latest, it would be Alan Burgess Spraywerx. Spraywerx is a fantastic, interesting company with some great traction. I only like working with companies if I see a serious opportunity for them to exit in 5 years or less. I think this is a good bet. I met Mr. Burgess when I'm thinking about how to try and address the chrome pollution problems, and we've been trying to work on addressing that with his technologies. And I think some of the things that look in this deal to be attractive to me is he has real traction. He's got a good foothold in his initial markets and a couple of new markets that he's started to enter, new segments. He has a very unique value proposition for dealing with chrome problems, and he's a serial entrepreneur, and I think he's got a strong story. So I'm looking forward to hearing it. Alan.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate the intro, and shout out to Dave Thomas, who had to remind me that I presented here 23 years ago. Time flies. Anyways, hello everybody. It's good to see a number of familiar faces out there, and I'd like to introduce you to an investment opportunity with Spraywerx Technologies and our ID HVOF technology. Spraywerx, we were founded in 2011. We're out here in North Vancouver, BC. Last year, we had $670,000 in revenues with customers pretty much all over the globe, China, US, Canada, Europe. Technology to date, we've invested $800,000 into the technology to date, and we're looking at a target exit within 5 years. The problem we're addressing is hexavalent chrome. It's a carcinogenic substance, and government have mandates to eliminate it. There's also a need for better and wear and corrosion resistance. We're dealing with the application of coatings, so we need better wear and corrosion resistance worldwide. And we need to be able to coat hard to reach areas like internal diameters and such. The solution is our ID Nova HVOF, high velocity oxide fuel technology, and the application of tungsten carbide as a chrome replacement coating. This has superior wear and corrosion resistance, and we can apply it to difficult areas such as internal diameters, and we can also do small parts, which are problematic as well. So the basic solution we have is basically we've developed our torch technology, and we're in the process of developing our powders technology. We combine these two and we create this unique or somewhat unique coating to apply in a number of industrial applications. Our thermal spray market in 2020 was a $14 billion market. We're looking at a serviceable, attainable market of about $1.2 billion. And we're looking at our beachhead market in the oil and gas, and then with the end users such as Halliburton and Baker Hughes. We're also got strong interest in some new markets such as the aerospace with Pratt & Whitney and Safran projects initiating, as well as the concentrated solar power and energy storage, and also the plastics industry. Our business model is we sell to thermal spray service providers and OEMs, and we want to develop the recurring revenue streams. This is the classic razor blade model. Our equipment's in 2026, we look at equipment sales coupled with powders and spare parts. And these powders and spare parts are basically our cash cows that really drive the business. We also have reseller arrangements with our company in Germany called GTV, and I've been working with them for the past 10 years. The sales of that equipment help develop the technology. What makes us unique? We have unique equipment, we have unique powders in terms of trade secrets or razor blades, and we're gaining worldwide recognition for our technology. And in terms of our innovation, we've got new materials, we're additive manufacturing and new proprietary equipment. In terms of our strategic assets, we've got US and China patents that exists, and we've got 4 new filings on the way, coupled with our trade secrets and know-how, including powder formulations and deep domain know-how in thermal spray. We've got a number of, we're looking at some of the competitors that we deal with in the thermal spray industry, but these competitors they're also involved in merger and acquisition activities. And the reason that they'd be interested in Spraywerx through our unique advantage stems from our best-in-class coatings for small and difficult parts. We also have a number of strategic partners in both in sales and marketing, and our technology partners in various places around the globe. Our management team is myself and Dusan Maximovich, who is my operations manager, coupled with our advisory board of Sean Irvine and Peter Dorsman. Our revenue projections, and we're looking at 2026 of $16 million in revenue with a net profit of just under $4 million. The deal we're looking at today is we're looking to raise $1.5 million in common shares at a pre-money valuation of $5 million. And we're looking to close this by the end of June. Use of funds include ramp up sales and marketing, buy purchase of equipment for our powder manufacturing, our spray shop, and to develop new IP and general corporate expenses. Exit, we've also have some exit comparables that we're looking at. And thank you. Happy to talk to people in the breakout session.
Thank you very much, Alan. At Spraywerx Technologies, everyone, please fill out the survey. You'll see the link in the chat function. And of course, you can always talk to Alan and to Sean in the breakout session. And even better, next week in the deep dives, just contact them directly. But right now, we're just asking you to fill out the feedback forms. Okay, next up, I'm going to ask Fabian de la Fuente to come up and introduce Viridis research. Fabian, why do you think we should pay attention to Viridis?
Yes, actually, thank you. So most of you know me because of Solaire. And actually, it was through one of these pitch events that I met Macarena. And once I was able to deep dive into her technology, I got so impressed that I invested in her company, Viridis Research. Just so you know, Macarena is a world-renowned scientist in electro-oxidation. And she has developed a technology to capture and destroy microplastics. This microplastics mitigation, the market she's trying to penetrate is a very interesting market because there's currently no solution that doesn't create more plastic pollution. One very interesting market is the clothes washing machines, which generate synthetic micropollution when they discharge the water, right? So this is a big problem that some governments are already trying to regulate. For example, in the European Union, they already passed a bill that will require that washing machines by 2025, they should have a way to mitigate this pollution. So I see there either she's selling her device to large appliance manufacturers or an IP play where she can license her technology to them. And she has done a very good job on getting grants. And actually that really multiplies the investors' money because, for example, I invested last year with her. I got my EBC, my RRSP, so my risk is really, really reduced. So thank you, Maca, your turn.
So I'm going to start right now. Water is a driving force of all nature. However, by 2050, the seas will contain more plastic than fish. I'm Dr. Macarena Cataldo, and this situation makes me very worried. However, I have been looking for solutions. Together with Dr. Ricardo Rivera, we found a new way to capture and destroy microplastic, and we started Viridis research. BIOX, or patent-pending electrochemical process, not only destroys microplastic, but also biofilms, viruses, and persistent organics. But we have decided to start solving the microplastic problem at the source. Microplastics are everywhere, in Arctic and ice and fish and shellfish, beer, onboard baby's placenta, and even in your blood right now. The chemicals present in the microplastics can produce different diseases, cancer, genetic mutation, infertility. And one of the main sources of microplastic are synthetic fibers coming from washing. During the washing process, these fibers are released and they cannot be all captured in the wastewater treatment plants, so they end in the water sources. But we are going to change that. Our technology is connected to the washing machine effluent, capturing the microplastic and draining the water. The captured microplastic is then oxidized and the device is regenerated. Our technology is easy to use, requires zero maintenance and zero chemical, has a small footprint, and doesn't need any disposable cartridge. Our VX system can be retrofitted to existing washing machines and integrated in new washing machines. Here you can see our technology in action. We were able to remove 99% of the microplastics and degrade 95% of the total organics. The time is now. New regulations that require washing machine manufacturers to implement this kind of systems are coming to North America and Europe, creating the perfect opportunity for Viridis. We are going to start selling an aftermarket product here to eco-friendly family homes for a total market of 4.4 billion. This market is going to increase to 1.1 billion yearly after regulations. We plan to lead the microfiber market by offering the greenest solution. Our main competitors are Filter and Planet Care. However, those systems require plastic cartridges, which generate even more plastic pollution than they are preventing to go to the ocean. Our system instead doesn't need any plastic cartridge. We plan to make money by licensing our technology to washing machine manufacturers who need our IP to meet this new regulation. Or using this model, we can address other markets and applications in the future. We currently have a pending patent and a high fidelity prototype, and we plan to launch our product by the end of 2023. Our go-to-the-market strategy is start with the direct sales of our aftermarket product to innovators, then licensing their product to medium-sized company, and finally go to incorporate our system in washing machines. Currently, we have over 79 subscriptions to LOI with a realtor and win LOI with a water company. In order to successfully bring this product to the market, we have an amazing team. We are not just committed to solve this problem, we have the skills to do it. And we have amazing advisors too, and institutions that have been supporting us during all this process. By 2030, VIOX will prevent 130 tons of microplastic to reach water sources, 350 tons of plastic cartridges, and 200 tons of CO2 emissions. We understand that impact is more than the product or service in the market. Impacts involve team, environment, and community. We are currently addressing 8 UN sustainable goals. We are raising 550K, and this is mainly will be triggered around 700K in grants. Thank you for your attention, and please contact us if you have any question.
Thank you very much, Viridis. Everyone, check your chat. There's a link for you to give your feedback about Viridis. And of course, you can give your contact information. And of course, we're gonna have our networking breakout rooms after all the presentations. And don't forget to contact Viridis directly for an invitation to their deep dive session next week. With that, we're going to go on to our final full presentation, and I'm going to ask Shannon Kaustanen to please come up to stage and tell us why we should be paying attention to Airsset. Shannon?
I just want to say it's great to see everybody and great to see some familiar faces. I've been working with Michael for about 1.5 years now, almost 2 years. And Michael has started several other companies, and he has a really deep personal interest in air quality. And he has a very unique background in software as well as construction. And so his personal interest combined with his software skills, combined with his construction knowledge and know-how, has created the intersection of his newest company, Airsset. Airsset has grown significantly since last year, and with the highlight of COVID bringing attention to the air we breathe in buildings, it's sort of lit a fire under Michael's team and his company. The company has grown 4x since just last year. They have an extraordinary pipeline of about $6 million. They've been very successful in securing STDC funding, and they have major clients of full portfolios such as Van City's entire buildings, Hudson Pacific's, Intermountain Health, and it goes on and on. In addition, they have a partner relationship set up both in the US and Canada, which will obviously light a fire under their revenue. And they are at an end stage closing of a seed round. And I will now just turn it over to Michael.
Michael,
Yeah,
you are on mute. Okay,
no, I got it. I didn't want to interrupt. Thanks for the introduction, Shannon. So as she mentioned, I've been in the green building industry for almost 25 years now. And so I've always had to talk about the return on investment in everything we do, whether that's energy savings or whatever that may be. But labor is the #1 cost for every single organization out there. So if we can save 1% by improving the air quality in a building, that just eclipses anything else that we're doing inside of the space. So the platform that we've built is software that you see here, built on top of Internet of Things devices that measure indoor air quality. We're connected to 9 OEMs now, and we're continuing to add to that platform. You kind of think of us like a cell phone company, but instead of a cell phone, you're going to get an indoor air quality device. To the point I was making before, the pandemic has definitely put a huge focus on improving indoor air quality to reduce viral loads and to reduce disease transmission. But our focus and my focus has always been on the productivity portion. Harvard has shown even a 15% improvement can be made at 1,000 parts per million versus 900 parts per million. That feels like nothing. You'd never feel this in a space. But the improvements are incredible when you think about it from people working in a space. But the biggest problem is that buildings are not managed for indoor air quality. They're just not. Their only source of feedback that you'll have in most businesses is a thermostat, if anything. Sometimes that's not even there. So businesses spend between $300 and $800 a square foot in labor costs without really understanding the impact that's happening inside of their spaces. So for us, really, it's about knowing the full extent of what's happening. You can't manage what you don't measure. So if we can manage humidity, we're going to lower the virus risk. If we can lower the CO2, we're going to improve productivities. If we can improve the chemical amounts in the air, we're going to improve that as well. We're going to lower risk. We're going to lower dust. We're going to lower allergies. The other beautiful thing about this, especially with CO2, is that we can also do demand control ventilation. And demand control ventilation can save between 20 to 40% energy in spaces. We're also doing demand control ventilation with industrial clients with using dust. So there's a lot of different ways to do demand control ventilation. We provide value to a variety of different people. Shannon mentioned the business owners. So in this case, she mentioned Van City. They love us for the proactive alerts. It allows them to be proactive rather than reactive. Someone complains and then they fix something. That's not the way we want things to go. We also really work closely with the landlords that own their buildings as well. And then also with the health and safety people. Usually this is indoor air quality consultants. Sometimes it's industrial hygienists. We have patents out for the cognitive performance index that we've built through, which is really the return on investment portion, as well as the KPI tables that you see here. So you can basically create reports in seconds instead of hours. This is usually how our partners were doing it. Regulation and awareness is growing very, very fast. We were talking about ESB at the beginning of this, and the real estate market is all over it with other rating systems like Fitwell and LEED. So we contribute to credits inside of these because indoor air quality monitoring real time is coming out as a requirement of these, but it's also a requirement from WorkSafe BC, OSHA, and everyone's upping their game in the next little while. The office market alone is about a $65 billion market. It's one of our 5 market sectors that we work in. We think that the serviceable addressable market over the next 10 years is about 50% of that. But we think in the next 5 years, which is probably when we're moving towards exit, is around $13 billion achievable in that one market sector, and we're working in multiples. In terms of the competitor landscape, there's a lot out there. So there are a lot of hardware products out there. But the hardware products are very light software. So it's essentially onboarding the device, getting it onto the internet, and maybe running an Excel spreadsheet that the consultants or someone else has to turn into some kind of report. It's not really built for the consulting industry. It's not really built for anybody specifically. So we've basically turned the entire outer circle of consultants, engineers, and even partners like Origen Air into partners to get us into market. They're our channel partners. So we're very asset light in that regard. When it comes to traction, Shannon mentioned a couple of these clients of ours. Van City is a super progressive client. They have 60 total buildings, and we moved into a full portfolio rollout about a month and a half ago. And that was after doing a really successful pilot in December. Hudson Pacific Properties, which is in the US, but at Bentall, so we're in the Bentall building. They started with a $14,000 pilot in 10 of their buildings, and now we're moving slowly over the next little while to a wider portfolio rollout. And the same goes for Intermountain Healthcare. So we're in their daycare currently, but we're going to be going into their surgical centers and their hospitals as well. Even more important in those spaces, obviously. In terms of revenue, as Shannon mentioned, we had 4x growth from last year. Our revenue model is a combined software and SaaS, very much like a cell phone plan, as I mentioned. First year is about $800 a year, depending on the plan type, and the second year is $200. So most of our clients we have very few SMB clients, most are enterprise, and we're growing really rapidly right now. My background, as mentioned before, I started a number of other software companies. The one that you probably know of is Aperto Gas Technologies, which just closed a $15 million Series A. I'm not actively involved in that company anymore, but boy, I'm happy with how it's going. Marcos Moreno is my head of product. I'm a big product guy, especially for my Aperto days.
Right. Michael, you're over time. Okay, well, take a look at the chat function. And I guess you could put your eyes also on Michael's last slide, but let us know how Airsset did by filling out this short survey. You can tell that we're very strict on time. Those of you who have been long-time VANTEC attendees know that we're very strict on time, and we this gives us enough just so that we're fair to every single company. All right, you know how this works. Give us your feedback. It will be shared with the companies. Meanwhile, we're going to be set up for our network breakout room. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, for listening to all the presentations today. There's some really interesting companies. I hope you do contact the companies. And I'd like to say thank you to all the VANTEC team members who work really hard behind the scenes. We have Frank Leffler, we have Wendy Tan, Peter Wilkins, and Jackson Wu, who've been working behind the scenes to bring you this meeting. And of course, those of you who know me, I'm Thalzell Lee, and I'm glad that Mike Boker, the founder of VANTEC, was here today too. So hope to see you at the next VANTEC meeting on May 7th. But right now, let's enjoy the breakout rooms.